welcome back to Crafty Meraki's YouTube channel. My name is Aditi and I'm back with some card inspiration for y'all. This week we are celebrating the love for pattern paper, and in my video today I am going to show you how I create my own pattern paper. I'm using the Evergreen Elegance Effortless Artistry Paper, and I've just used the coordinated die and die cut all of these leaves. I think these make for such great spring cards. Now I am using a double-sided adhesive sheet just on the back of my card fronts. The card fronts are 4 inches into 5¼ inches, slightly smaller than an A2 card size. And I am using the adhesive sheets so that it's easy for me to adhere this to my card mats. Now, working on the first card, I am just picking all of those pastel tone leaves and playing around with the composition. So, in a pattern paper, the first important thing to remember is a repetitive, recurrent design, right? So, in my case, it is going to be this pattern of a leaf, but colorful leaves. So, I am just placing all of these leaves, offsetting them, rotating them, placing them in a variety of directions, some as if facing upwards, some facing downwards, some to the left, some to the right, just creating a nice continuous movement and a sense of that continuity. So once I'm happy with the way everything looks, I am going to use my liquid adhesive and start gluing these leaves down firmly on the card front. Now, as I begin gluing, you will see that my composition changes a little more. I remove some elements, change the placement of the leaves further, and this happens very naturally, intuitively as I'm working, just keeping in mind what I spoke about earlier, the principle of continuity and a repetitive pattern. It is also very important to have the elements overhanging outside of the paper so that we can trim them down later and they seem abrupt or they seem like they extend beyond our card front. And that is what gives us the idea of having used a pattern paper to cut for the card front. So once I'm happy with the way everything looks on one of the card front, I then go back in just adding tiny leaves at the corners wherever I feel like there is empty space. And with that done, I am moving on to the second card front, and here I am focusing on using more of a green blue tone. So again, playing with the same idea, I am picking up leaves, placing them in different orientations. The fact that all of these leaves come in a variety of shape and size also helps further enhance the idea of a nice pattern paper. Once I'm happy with the placement, I begin just gluing everything down with liquid adhesive, and you will notice just that fact that I have the leaves moving in all directions gives a sense of movement as well as continuity. Again, repeating the same process, just checking in where I need to fill empty spots. I am adding a single leaf cluster and repeating that on all sides until I'm happy and I feel like I have a good pattern paper background. Now to further enhance this, I'm going to use the Lindy's Magical. So I have Jana's Jade and Karen's Coral here, and I've just mixed them on my palette, and I am going to use a moist paintbrush and start adding this to the background of my card. Now, I forgot to mention earlier, my card front base is watercolor paper for this reason, because I wanted to add the Lindy's. Now, what this is doing is giving it a touch of color which coordinates very well with the leaves, and it's more of a blotchy wash effect, so it's not complete single tone color all over. Now to matte the card fronts, I'm using colored cardstock, and I have chosen a darker green and a darker blush sort of a cardstock. And I think just these card mats further enhance all the colors and make all the elements of that background pop even more. So once that's done, all I need is a sentiment. I am using the Just a Note die. I love these die sets. And so I'm using glitter cardstock for the alphabet layer, the same card matte cardstock for the base layer, and for the second layer I'm using the same watercolor paper I've used for my background. So die cut all of these elements, and it's just about gluing and getting all of these prepped. Now it would be wise to probably adhere double-sided adhesive to each of these sheets before die cutting the three layers of the sentiment. It just makes it very easy to then glue one layer on top of the other. I forgot to do that, so I'm just using my liquid adhesive, and that works well too. I am keeping the colors constant. By that I mean I have the dark green card mat, so my sentiment has the dark green background. I then have the white background tinted with my magicals, but it's very pastel, so I bring that on the second layer of my sentiment. And just to enhance and add a pop, I am using coordinated colored glitter cardstock so that the alphabets stand out even further on my card. I think with such a sentiment die, there is nothing else that you need to complete the card. With the leaves that we have going on, I think it creates for a nice, fun, patterned background that not only works as a card background but works for a great card front, giving us enough for the focal point just by adding this big bold sentiment. So repeating the same process on the second sentiment, I'm just adding the glitter blue alphabets to the base layer, and once I am happy, I am going to just play around with the placement. So since the sentiment is going to be the predominant focal point, I am wondering where I want it, and then once I'm happy, I am going to use some foam tape because I like to bring in some depth and dimension and distinguish between the background. So it all ties in very well together yet stands out as well. To complete it and embellish it, I think gems come so handy. You could also just use sequins or pearls here, and I am just filling in gaps between the leaves by gluing down these gems. It adds that perfect touch of bling as well as kind of creates another element for our pattern paper, giving it that sense of continuity as if it moves beyond my card here. So that is a closer look at these cards, and I have had fun creating this. It's a very simple and easy, effective technique to create quick cards. I really hope that you've enjoyed this today and give it a try. Do let me know in the comments, and until the next time, take care and bye-bye.